Hey, it's Al Angelo from A+ Racing back at you today, and we're at Thunder Hill this weekend. Been here since Thursday. I'm tired. It's Sunday. I want to go home. Rented out every car I own. Great racing today, but I want to go ahead and talk to you about what it takes to build a 1.6 car. So I talked to you earlier about what it takes to build a 1.8 car. This is a 1.6 car. Now, not only is this a 1.6 car, this is the 1.6 car that is winning the championship series here in Northern California. This is the #1 car in sealed spec Miata, and I'll talk about that a little later. So my buddy Mark Means is driving the car, and he's doing well. He's put it up on the podium the entire year, and this car is set up by A+ Racing. So let's walk around this car, and let me tell you what it takes to build a 1.6 Miata. First up, you cannot be a highly tuned athlete like me and fit in a 1.6 car. The problem with the 1.6 car is that I'm too fat. All right, so you got to weigh like probably 175 pounds or less in order to make a 1.6 car competitive. The reason being is that this car can't weigh more than 2275. I can't make the weight on the car. So the car by itself has to weigh 2275. By the time you put my fat ass in there, you know, it's 500-600 pounds. So over that. So a light kid coming in out of karting, they do really well in this car. My buddy Mark weighs 145 pounds sopping wet. He's fast in this car. All right. So it's basically, this is an NA, and it's a 1.6. So that was made from 1989 to 1993. 93 was the last year for the 1.6. Let's go ahead and look under the hood and see what he's got underneath there, because maybe he's cheating. All right. So
Federico Mosconi made a great showing.
Okay. So what we have here is we have the Bilstein shocks, okay? So these are the old shocks. If you're going to build a 1.6 car, you can buy these shocks pretty cheap, but I got to be honest with you, they're probably not going to be used very much longer. The Penske's are the official shock. You can pick these up cheap, usually because people are switched to Penske's, but eventually these will go away. Right now, you cannot use these in a major, which is a national race. You can only use these in local regional races. So the engine is a box stock 1.6 engine. Can't have anything done to it. Now this particular car is raced in sealed spec, and what that means is the engine is dynoed to about 114 horsepower, and then they seal up everything on it, so you can't change anything on the engine. It has to remain sealed. So if you put this thing up on the podium, they're going to come in, they're going to check to make sure the seals haven't been broken. That was supposed to make the car more competitive, that they're more alike. I mean, aren't they supposed to be alike already? Anyhow, so this is a sealed spec car, and it races here in Northern California in the SSM class. So Mark has went ahead and he's just used some foil tape up here to help get more air through this aluminum radiator to help keep it cool. That's pretty common, easy to do. You're allowed to use a racing air filter on the 1.6 car, and you're also allowed to leave the left turn signal out. So this doesn't have a left turn signal. If you get a closer shot of that, you can see it that Mark just vented it. That's supposed to help allow some cold air to get into that intake, maybe help it make a little more power. The reason why the rules are doing that is so that this car can be a little bit more competitive with the NBs and the 1.8. So they're trying to help this car make some power to compete against those bigger engines. So they'll allow you to do some things in here that you wouldn't normally be allowed to. Other thing that every Miata has to have is has a fuel sample port. You know, you can go and buy these fuel sample ports for $100 some odd. Mark made this one from this plumbing. I went to a plumbing shop and bought all the parts at a plumbing shop to make it. Probably cost him $10. So, but that's the way Mark rolls. That's good. I mean, I used to do that myself. So he's got it tapped in here on the fuel pressure line. Other thing Mark does, he wants to run this car as light as he can, so at 2275. So what he does is he drains the gas tank, and he knows exactly how much fuel he needs to put back in there in order to come off the racetrack with a half a gallon of gas. So I just watched him, you know, drain the tank, measure out his fuel, and put it back in, and he does that from the fuel sample port. Okay, everything else underneath here is pretty stock. The stock exhaust, everything's pretty box stock underneath here. As you can tell, it looks like an Autocross Miata or just a regular Miata. So that's all we got going on here. Let's take a look what he's got going on the inside. So here on the inside, Mark's got, I remember we put this cage in, we actually robbed this from another Spec Miata that was totaled, and we put this cage in here. He's got his Momo quick release steering wheel. You know, he's got a Kirky racing seat. He's also got the right hand, what we call a halo. He's got the right protection here. If he didn't have that, he would have to run a right side net. But being that he has this, that counts as the right size net. He's got an aftermarket mirror in there, a Curvo one. Those aren't very expensive. He's got a couple of, you know, avionics in here. He's got an old rumble strip from a buddy of ours that used to race Spec Miata. He made those. And he's got a Solo 2 in there. And he's got some, you know, plugins that he can plug in, USB port, and all that stuff you can get fairly cheap. You know, that's really inexpensive stuff you can get at any auto parts store. He's got some little wider pedals in there if we get a shot of the foot box. He's got some grip tape down there that keeps his heel planted when it's cold and wet outside. He's got a regular fire extinguisher. You can use those for now, but I think the time is coming that they're going to want us all to have the system. So lately, most of the cars that I've been building, I put a system in it. So I'm kind of getting away from that and going more with the system. They're a little bit more money, but well worth it. All right, let's walk around the back. So he's done away with the key, and we usually just run this with a piece of wire right up to the latch so that we can get into the trunk really easy. He's also got his fuel door back in here. If you can see over here, there's his fuel door release. Some people just run another cable to the outside. He's got his little pouch where he keeps his logbook. Of course, the battery has to be protected on the positive, so they're going to look for that when you have your logbook done to make sure that this is all sealed. So everything else back here is pretty stock. He's hogged out the filler neck, I'm sure. So as you can see here, there's no restrictor inside here. He's hogged it out so he can dump a lot of fuel in a short period of time. Okay? The rest of the car is pretty stock, and that's what makes up the Spec Miata class. You can build these cars a little cheaper than an NB. So if the money's tight on you and you know you're not sure what to do and you want to build one, this would be the cheapest platform to do that. All right. Thank you for chiming into my channel. I hope that you can hear me over the speaker that's right there. But we got a lot of racing going on. We're going to watch this car finish up the series here. One more race to go. And Mark has clinched the championship for Spec Miata class. Have a great day. Thanks for coming by. Bye now.